Welcome back. Eddie Radosovich, George Stoy here from the SoonerScoop.com studios, and it is time to take a look at Oklahoma's SEC opener. Coming up on September 21st, we bring in Eric Cain from VolQuest, excuse me. Eric, how's it going? Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. I think that this is a game that Oklahoma fans obviously will have circled with the return to Josh Heupel, which I'm sure that he is sick of having to answer about coming back to Norman. But and it was a little bit of a weird ending to the Josh Heupel tenure in Norman. But at the same time, he's bringing back a volunteer program that it seems like is in a really good spot. Would that be accurate here to start?
Yeah, I think so. He's done great work here in 3 years as being Tennessee's head coach, and the roster that he inherited is just nowhere inside anymore. I mean, the roster's in such a good spot. It's obviously never going to be a finished product, but he's done a really, really nice job. He and his staff in recruiting and, beating out some of the better teams in the SECs, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs for some top, recruiting wins. And the wins on the field have been there. Year one, I think he shocked everybody when Tennessee had a winning record. Year two, of course, double-digit wins, Orange Bowl win, 11-2. That was so much fun, knocking on the door of the college football playoffs last year, and what so many Tennessee fans would be considered a down year. And sure, an 8 wins in the regular season, that should not be the standard, but for 15 years, gosh, Tennessee fans would have given anything for 8 wins in a regular season, and that was considered a down year this past year. But a lot of excitement, obviously, for the start of football season, and Tennessee fans are in love with Josh Heupel. That is for sure. He's done a great job here.
Eric, what are the expectations for this season? I feel like Tennessee's in that same kind of category as Oklahoma, where there's a bit of unknowns, a young quarterback coming in, stepping in to the offense. I mean, what are the expectations for this season?
Yeah, expectations are the college football playoffs. And why not? That should be the expectation for Tennessee, should be the expectation for Oklahoma, should be for Missouri, should be for Ole Miss. Of course, it's the expectation for Georgia and Alabama. We'll see how LSU does after losing their Heisman Trophy quarterback, but it opens so many different doors. With the 12-team college football playoff, how many teams from the SEC are going to get in there? I think 4 for sure, just because of this league. But those teams who are 9-3, those teams who are 10-2, 100% in the conversation, knocking on the door to get in the college football playoff. So that is the expectation for sure, and it's to get the offense back. 7-5 year one, of course, 11-2. In year 2 for Josh Heupel. And in 2022, Tennessee led the nation in offense and scoring. In 2021, with that 7-5 record, Tennessee was a top 10 offense. Last year, the offense took a step back. Expectation is getting it back where it needs to be with the young quarterback in Nico Iamaleava and being an exciting brand of football, while also continuing to take steps on defense, where this defense has gotten better every single year. And you got one of the best players in the country coming off the edge, and James Pierce making it difficult for the opposing quarterback. So, long story short, there's no divisions. You certainly want to go to Atlanta and play for an SEC championship, but it is 100% to get into the college football playoff.
I'm glad that you said his last name, because I'm not even going to try. It would be just a pronunciation, just a butchering of a last name. But if Nico does continue to play well, I think a lot of people across the country will have to learn how to say his last name. In terms of expectation, when you come in as the 5-star, as the heralded quarterback that he did, and then put forth the effort that he did in the bowl game, where are those expectations just in terms of where he could land and put his name on that Tennessee lineage at the quarterback position?
Well, I mean, they're all over the map, right? I mean, they're through the roof. This has been years for Tennessee fans. This has been years and years of expectations. I mean, we're entering year 3 essentially of, courting Nico, recruiting Nico, getting a commitment from Nico, signing Nico, and getting here on campus, acting as the backup quarterback, the number 2, learning, being a sponge, coming in, playing in the bowl game, performing very well. Now a whole offseason as Nico is the guy, and now we're going to get to see what he looks like as an everyday starter, as an every week starter. So anytime you're the number 1 overall recruit in the nation, like he was, for On 3 and a 5-star prospect, the expectations are going to be through the roof. It's almost unfair because the moment he makes a mistake, and he will make a mistake, he's a young quarterback, nobody's perfect. It's going to be like, oh, well, who is this guy? You know how fans can be outrageous at times. So it's almost unfair for him. And of course, you have that other cycle of, he's the big NIL man, and, all those rumors swirling around for years. So this has been building for a long time, but He's super smart, obviously super athletic. He's got all the tools and intangibles that you want. He's got a strong arm, accurate arm. I like the growth that we saw from him in the offseason over spring practice, stepping up, being a leader, communicating with his wide receivers between snaps, talking with his offensive line. Not only it's going from commanding the huddle to commanding the offense to commanding the team. And I'm sure Jackson Arnold's doing the same because they're in very similar boats. So expectations through the roof. If Nico is who Josh Heupel and everybody thinks Nico is, boy, Tennessee should be really good this year.
I feel
It
like
all sounds very, very familiar in terms of Jackson Arnold
Yeah.
and Nico kind of going through the same things around.
Yeah, no, we've been saying the same stuff about Jackson here in Norman, and if he can live up to expectations, then OU's going to have a great season. But Eric, I wanted to ask you too about the defense. I know you mentioned James Pierce, one of the best players in all of college football. What is that defense expected to look like this year? I know last year I think they were top 25 in team defense and statistically was really good. What is the expectation on that side of the ball this year?
Yeah, it's wreaking havoc up front. Josh Heupel and with defensive coordinator Tim Banks and defensive line coach Rodney Gardner, who's been in this league, the SEC, for 30 plus years, really good at what he does. And the consistent, whereas Tennessee's defense as a whole has gotten better and better as the years have gone on, the defensive line play has been really good. The TFL numbers, the sack numbers, disrupting, momentum on that side of the ball and getting to the quarterback. Tennessee's got, I won't say it's the most talented defensive line in the country because I know there's a lot of good defensive lines out there, but it is one of them. And I will say it is the deepest defensive line in the country. Tennessee will play 13 guys on the defensive front. James Pierce will get a ton of work, don't get me wrong, but behind him, there's Joshua Josephs and Caleb Herring, really good pass rushers. In the interior, you got guys like Amari Thomas, Elijah Simmons, Omar Norman Lott, who have been here for so long. A lot of up-and-comers on the other side as well. So a lot of guys up front. They'll be good against the run. Tennessee's typically really good against the run and have been in this defensive system. Linebacker, not very good last year. You do return Keenan Peely, who originally signed with BYU in 2016. Of course, he took his 2-year mission. He redshirted. He had a medical red shirt. He has a COVID year, and look, he's still here.
Yeah.
He's going to help linebacker play an awful lot for Tennessee. And then in the secondary, all 5 starters from last year are gone, either to graduation or the transfer portal. And that seems like a really, really bad thing. You lose experience, but you also now gain a lot of athleticism, in my opinion. Getting Jamal McCoy from Oregon State, a freshman All-American, putting Ricky Gibson at cornerback. And I think this defense has a chance to continue to grow. So inexperienced and brand new in the back end, regrouping in the middle at linebacker, good to elite, in my opinion, up front. That's kind of what you should expect about Tennessee's defense.
It's fascinating because you start talking about, just the matchups for what we will see on September 21st, and you have an Oklahoma offensive line that has some question marks going into this season and going up against what would seem like it's going to be a very strong unit up front against Tennessee. For Oklahoma fans, it's going to be quite fascinating just in terms of, Josh Heupel coming back to town. But you start looking at the SEC schedule, particularly from the Oklahoma lens, there's a lot of these swing games. Would that, for Tennessee fans on the flip side, would coming to Norman, would that something be of a flip game and all of a sudden maybe the season skyrockets from there for the Vols?
Yeah, a huge swing game. And for many, many reasons. Tennessee has Cupcake in week 1, going to a neutral site and playing a pretty solid NC State team in week 2. And that's good for Tennessee. And I mean, everybody's picking Tennessee to win that game, but it's certainly not going to be easy. The way NC State finished last year, the way they attacked the transfer portal, and they got a lot better at quarterback with the addition of Grayson McCall. That's going to be a great test for Tennessee prior to Oklahoma. You got a Cupcake in week 3, and then it's showtime. You're going on the road. This will be Nico's first true road game in a road environment. Josh Heupel going home. I mean, the national media, you're right. I mean, you're exactly right. He's so sick and tired of hearing this. And, this week at SEC Media Days, it's going to be the story. It's all that people are going to talk about with Tennessee and Tennessee, Oklahoma, or Josh Heupel, Oklahoma. But that is a storyline, and it will mean something for him. I mean, he loves Tennessee. This is his home. He's proud of what he's done here, but can't act like his years in Norman didn't exist, right? So that'll be a storyline. But you look at the rest of the schedule for Tennessee. Of course, you got the Alabama. You got on the road at Georgia. You're hosting Florida, Kentucky, and then the rest of this SEC schedule. If Tennessee wants to be a college football playoff team, You need to win 2 of the 3 of Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma. And I think this is one of those games that Tennessee would have a better chance at winning against Oklahoma than maybe on the road against Georgia, right?
Sure.
So a huge opportunity for Tennessee in a big game. I've been calling it the tone setter for the season, and maybe that's disrespectful to the NC State game in week 2, but I think this game, win or lose, will set the tone for Tennessee the rest of the way.
I would say the same about Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I mean, it's such a
fascinating
huge game.
how all of these teams, it seems to match up like exactly with the swing game, or if you win this game, maybe you can skyrocket or parlay it into something else.
Yeah, because if you're Oklahoma and you beat Tennessee at home, you're feeling really good going at Auburn the next week in their first road SEC game. So going to be really interesting. Eric, I also wanted to ask you too, just what are the thoughts about Oklahoma entering the league from whether it's, Tennessee fans? Obviously, Josh has been asked about it a million times and how they fit into the culture of the SEC. But, OU and Tennessee have some history. It was 10 years ago. It's crazy to think about. 10 years ago, Tennessee came to Norman. 9 years ago, obviously, OU went to Tennessee, kind of Baker Mayfield's coming out party. But what are, I guess, just the expectations and kind of the feel for Oklahoma entering the league, as well as, I guess, Texas, too?
Yeah, and I mean, this is no disrespect. I feel like there's been a whole lot more of the Texas talk just because of, horns down and the quarterback play, and I'm sure you guys get enough of that as well. But I think these are two, not just for football, but for, SEC, all sports. These are two great additions. I mean, Oklahoma, looking at the history that you bring in, not only in football, but, softball and, all across the athletic landscape. And, of course, Texas with baseball and football and everything else. And, both teams, basketball teams cycle up and everything. So I think these are two great additions. I think that these two fan bases are going to fit in really, really well in the SEC. It's a little crazy, can get weird at times. You live for football, and that's obviously what is life down here in the Southeastern Conference. So I think there's a lot of excitement, and kind of like with Nico, right? And the anticipation. It's finally here, and Texas and Oklahoma are officially a part of the Southeastern Conference as of earlier last week, and that's exciting. And I'm ready to see kind of how this all rolls and fits out, because I think in year one, again, Oklahoma has a chance to be really good football team. Texas, of course, has a chance to be a really good football team. So you talk about coming into the league, which in my opinion is the best league in the country for not just football, but almost across the board. A chance to make some real noise, that being the Sooners and the Longhorns. So I'm excited about it for sure.
God, it has to be a good time to cover Tennessee right now, too, with the baseball. It just seems like everything, the entire athletic program, is this about as good as it's been since you've been on the beat?
Oh, easily. Since I've been on the beat, easily.
Sure.
My coworkers are older than me. So, I mean, they, in the 2000s and all that, and of course, the 1998 national championship season for football. Basketball, Lady Vols won a couple in the 2010s. Baseball made a couple trip to Omaha, but
Sure.
I mean, yeah, across the board, you got an Elite Eight appearance coming off for men's basketball. Baseball just won the national championship. Football continues its upward trend with Josh Heupel. Made a switch and a coaching change for the Lady Vols basketball program. So excited to see, there's excitement there. It's a great time for sure for Tennessee athletics. So it's been the best since I've covered it for sure. I think this program's got a whole lot of momentum under athletic director Danny White, who, of course, hired Josh Heupel both at UCF and here at Tennessee. He's doing a great job, and Tennessee fans are never satisfied, but they're happy right now. That's for sure.
There's a lot of familiarity and a lot of similarities, I think, and not just with all the SEC programs, but particularly Oklahoma and Tennessee. I've seen the message boards on VolQuest. There's no doubt about it. He is Eric Cain from VolQuest. We will see you in Norman on September 21st for the SEC opener, which I feel like, as you said, it's kind of like the Nico thing. This thing has been in motion for a long time. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun now that we're actually getting to that point. We appreciate it.
Man, I can't wait. It's only a couple weeks away, so I'm pumped up about it. Can't wait.
No doubt. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.